Welcome to another episode of the Cynical Writer. Before we get started, I would just like to remind everyone that if you would like to support this channel, you can purchase my books, and I've left a link in the description section in case you're interested. Now, today I thought I would give my thoughts on Romanticism, which was a literary movement that took place in the late 1700s and early 1800s. And it really emphasized the emotions of the individual artist and writer. It was about how writers would react emotionally to the elegance of nature or to lovers or other human beings. And it focused on the primacy of emotion and how the writer or artist interpreted what they saw. And now there were really two romantic movements that took place within two generations of each other. The first romantic movement I admire a bit more than the second, although I think both of them have value. Within the first romantic movement, you had someone like William Wordsworth, who was very passionate about nature, about describing nature, about the supremacy of feelings. And I try to use such philosophies and elements in my own writing by thinking about nature. How am I reacting to nature or the scenery that I'm seeing? It's about being one with not only nature, but with God and the universe, so to speak. And I thought I would read to you this poem by William Wordsworth that I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely one of my favorites, but I really love it. And I think if I read it to you, it will illustrate what Romanticism is all about. She was a phantom of delight. She was a phantom of delight when first she gleamed upon my sight, a lovely apparition, sent to be a moment's ornament. Her eyes as stars of twilight fair, like twilight's too her dusky hair. But all things else about her dawn from Maytime and the cheerful dawn, a dancing shape, an image gay, to haunt, to startle, and waylay. I saw upon her nearer view a spirit, yet a woman too, her household emotions light and free, and steps of virgin liberty. A countenance in which did meet sweet records, promises as sweet, a creature not too bright or good from human's nature daily food. For transient sorrow, simple wiles, praise, blame, love, kisses, tears, and smiles. And now I see, with eye serene, the very pulse of the machine, a being breathing thoughtful breath, a traveler betwixt life and death, the reason firm, the temperate will, endurance, foresight, strength, and skill, a perfect woman, nobly planned, to warn, to comfort, and command, and yet a spirit still, and bright with something of an angel light. And I really like that poem because Wordsworth is basically describing his wife here, and he does it in a very, again, eloquent and romantic way about comparing her eyes to stars and her hair to the dusk. I really love his imagery here. And Wordsworth was very, again, romantic and passionate in that way, and that's why he's one of my favorite romantic writers. Then you have the second generation of romantic writers, people like Lord Byron and Percy Shelley, and they focused more on the sensation of, I guess you could say, of a sensuous appetites that if they felt something, that meant that they should act on it, that it was kind of a self-destructive romanticism, and that's why both of them died quite young. I think Lord Byron, who was, again, a lord who wrote poetry, and he became somewhat of a kind of an equivalent of a rock star in his day, where women admired him. I'm sure not just because of his poetry, but because of his station in life as well. And but again, he made a lot of self-destructive decisions. He wrote some good poetry, and I'm in the midst of reading some of his poetry as we speak. And but he also got into numerous scandals. There were rumors that he had an incestuous relationship with his half sister, and he was accused of homosexuality and all sorts of other things. And eventually, he had to flee from the country, and he died at the age of 36. He led a very self-destructive life, as well as you have someone like Percy Shelley, was of course the husband of Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein, who was self-destructive as well. And I kind of dislike Percy Shelley more though, because he had a bit of an idealist streak. He believed in the idea of free love, of there was no such thing as commitment, that you should share, your partner, or women with multiple people, that passion is the only thing that matters. And I guess he tried to form his ideals though into a coherent political philosophy, which in some sense made him more dangerous than Lord Byron, who was just kind of cynical. And he ultimately ended up dying in a boating accident at sea, and then his body in a storm at sea, and then his body washed up on the beach, half eaten by fish. But I identify far more with the first romantic movement. That's more about the just admiring the beauty of nature, and the sensuality of romance and things of that nature. And but I don't agree with the romanticism that's about satiating your appetites. I certainly try to understand it, and I can appreciate it from afar. But ultimately, I think the first romanticism had a better, more coherent philosophy. I think that the second kind of romanticism certainly led to certain kind of artistic innovations, but I think that because it wasn't quite coherent, or it didn't have a strong foundation, it ultimately collapsed on top of itself. But thank you for listening, and I will return next week. And once again, if you would like to support this channel, you can check out my books in the description section. And until next time, goodbye.